Hello everyone, Mr. Harper here, and we are going to continue our discussion on the leaf. Remember, we talked in our first session on the purpose of a leaf and the two parts. The purpose is to do photosynthesis, collect sunlight, do photosynthesis. And the two parts are the blade and a petiole. And we also talked about some leaves are simple, one blade, one petiole, and some leaves are compound, one petiole, many small blades separated into different pieces called leaflets. And we talked about pinnate compound and palmate compound. I'm going to go back a slide. Here's pinnate compound, where you have a long petiole and leaves come off at different points from that. And then here's palmate. You have a petiole and all the leaves come out from one location. So there's a difference between the two. So today we want to talk about leaf anatomy, and we're going to talk about the three kinds of tissues that leaves have. Dermal tissue, have grounded tissue, and have vascular tissue. So first off, let's start with dermal. I want to show you the picture down here. So dermal tissue, oops, you go back in present mode, my apologies. Dermal tissue is a covering tissue. It covers over the top of the leaf. And the top layer of that dermal tissue we talked about is a cuticle that prevents water loss, and then right underneath that a single layer of cells called the epidermis. You have one on the top and one on the bottom of the leaf, both sides. The job of the epidermis is protection. It protects the leaf. It lets certain things in, certain things out through the epidermis. And the job of the cuticle is to prevent water loss through evaporation. The drier the climate that the plant lives in, the thicker this cuticle layer will be. So you can see, like this plant that has a very, very thin cuticle must live in an area where there's plenty of rainfall, so they don't have to worry about water loss as much. Excuse me. Now, that's the dermal tissue. Now, vascular tissue. Vascular tissues is the xylem and the phloem tissue. Remember, the xylem are tubes that carry water through the plant, up from the roots, up from the stems, up out the branches to the leaves. And the phloem tissue are tubes that carry food, nutrients that are made by the leaves both up from the roots and down to the roots. So in the summertime, for example, the phloem would carry the material, the food that's made from the leaves down to the roots to both nourish the roots and to store extra food that the plant has made, because through the wintertime, that's what that plant's going to have to live on, is the food that's stored down there. So that food is slowly sent back up throughout the winter to nourish the branches of, say, if it's a tree. And then in the spring, that food is ultimately sent back up to help make the new leaves for that year so the plant can start doing photosynthesis again. Anyway, in the leaf, this vascular tissue is connected into bundles that we call leaf veins. So here's a leaf vein in a leaf, a series of veins, and this actually happens to be what is called palmately veined, just like a palmate compound leaf. This leaf is palmately veined because all the veins come out from one central point. And here's a pinnately compound veined leaf, where you have a long branch, a long vein, and then the veins then separate out from that. And these veins, remember, contain a tube that has a xylem tube in it and a phloem tube in it. And if you look at this this picture right here, you'll see something. The xylem is on the top and the phloem is on the bottom through the vein. This is always true. Xylem on top, phloem on the bottom. Now, there's also ground tissue in the leaf. So we have dermal tissue that covers the cuticle and the epidermis, protection and prevents water loss. We have vascular tissue, the leaf veins that run through the leaf and carry the xylem and the phloem tubes, the xylem bringing water into the leaf, phloem taking food out of the leaf and bringing it back in if that needs to be. The last piece of this is the ground tissue. So the ground tissue is where this photosynthesis actually takes place. So right underneath the epidermis is a layer of cells called the Palisade Mesophyll, and they're tightly packed together so they can absorb light. Sunlight coming in and hitting the top of the leaf. And underneath that is a layer of Palisade tissue called the Spongy Mesophyll that has a lot of, the cells are further apart and they have a lot of air spaces. Just like a sponge has holes in it, there seems to be holes in the leaf, if you will, where there are the cells are not, and there's just air space inside the leaf. Let me show you how this actually looks, because a picture will help you with this. Here's the Palisade Mesophyll. All the cells are all side by side, tightly together. And then here's the Spongy Mesophyll. The cells are not nearly as compact together in this area. And you notice those are toward the bottom of the leaf. The top, they're tightly packed together. And you notice that these cells are green and they got these little green dots. That green and those dots represent the chloroplasts that hold a pigment called chlorophyll that is green. And it is this chlorophyll that absorbs the sunlight that allows the plant to do photosynthesis. Some more things about this ground tissue. On the bottom side of the leaf, the underside, there are guard cells. 2 guard cells, we talked about these in class, that surround an opening called a stoma. Stoma is singular, plural, stomata. So here's one stoma, here's another stoma. Together there's stomata. These are holes or pores, if you will, in the leaf. Just like you have sweat pores in your skin, they have pores in the leaf that can open or close. There are 2 guard cells around each stoma. And the guard cells can curve open, swell open, or shut flat to open and close that stoma. And here's some pictures. Here's a stoma, electron microscope that's really, really large. You can see it. Here's a microscope. Maybe we might be able to see some on with our microscopes. A stoma on the leaf. There are many more stoma on the underside of the leaf than the top, because if it's on the top and say there's the plant has dust or whatever land on the leaf, or bird poop or something, that could clog up those stoma, those pores. So if on the underside of the leaf, that doesn't happen as much. And so what happens is the leaf stoma will open to let out water through a process called transpiration. We'll talk more about that. And open also to bring in carbon dioxide that the plant needs to do photosynthesis. If the plant doesn't have carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, it cannot make its own food through photosynthesis. So the stoma has to be open to bring in that carbon dioxide. But it can't be open too much, because when it's open, the plant loses water, and it's a really dry environment. The plant can't afford to lose too much water. All right, so we've talked about 3 parts of the leaf. Let's go back really quick. 3 kinds of tissue. I want to go back to that first picture because we can see it all. There is dermal tissue, which is the epidermis, layer of cells, and the cuticle, protection. The cuticle protects from water loss. The epidermis protects in other ways, and also has in it pores. Here's on the bottom too. The pores are called stoma. They can open and close because of 2 guard cells that surround each stoma to let in carbon dioxide, let out water. There's also vascular tissue in leaf veins that bring water in on the xylem and food in and out on the phloem. And there's also ground tissue. The Palisade Mesophyll on the top, tightly packed cells where lots of photosynthesis is done, and the Spongy Mesophyll on the bottom, which is loosely packed. And the reason why I guess I didn't say this is that if you're going to bring in carbon dioxide, it comes in through the stomata, and this spaces in between the cells allow that carbon dioxide to move through the leaf. So those are the 3 tissues in the leaf, some of the basic parts. We'll talk more next time.